It really comes back to figuring out if you can put love above logic sometimes, doesn't it? Isn't it just
Oh,
clear? It's just that.
it actually is that simple. If you really want to take it to say, what is it? I had the chapter in the book. You probably, oh no, you haven't read the new book, The
No?
Dying to Live. Oh,
Okay.
after you read that one, you're going to have a
Okay.
chuckle after this conversation.
Okay.
Was that I had this beautiful moment when I was writing, and I was like, oh wow, I make 1,000 decisions a day that are guided by fear or love. And I was like, oh, do I play with the child who's there, with the parents there, of course, or am I fearful that I might be seen as a pedophile? Do I say hello to the woman in the elevator who looks like she's got a face that is full of torture and pain, and say it's wonderful to see you, and think, oh, I'm encroaching on somebody? Or do I take the risk and let her see that there's somebody that sees her and cares? When I was writing, I was like, wow, I make that decision over and over again to choose the love and not the fear.
This is huge. It doesn't, that's something I've been recommending to people because that's what the innovators, the people that I interview and have for 13 years talked to that are innovators and are fearlessly tackling the problems of our world. I always say that they make their decisions if that I'm based on love, not fear. Love for the
Yeah,
future, love for the world, love for
yeah,
animals, love for space, love for and they just will not listen to the fearful warnings of their
yeah,
family that doesn't want them to go try and fix the mining waste problem in Ohio or the
yeah,
right. That's it. Every day it's a choice between fear and love all day long.
yeah, all day long. Yeah, and I always laugh because my wife lives more in fear than I do. So she'll always say, "Why did you do that?" Or especially when I talked about interacting with kids, or something. Her just you're just too friendly to them. You're just too friendly to them. Like, oh, I don't, and she has a point, right? She has a point, and I can't take it away from her. But it's more like, oh wow, I know my intention, I know my thought. So but the humor is that if you're around enough people who say things to you similarly over and over again, what they do is they push you into conformity, which is also the fear that they live in.
Absolutely.
So you're actively choosing not to accept that as the paradigm that you go into life living through that.
Okay. I think that's a really, really powerful distinction when we have squabbles with our teenager, with our neighbor.
Yeah.
We can't get away from those relationships. Our neighbor is our neighbor, right?
Yeah.
And that's it. Our teenager it will be our teenager forever. Our
Yeah.
mother-in-law will be our mother-in-law forever,
Yeah.
right? Like
I
till death.
speaking of which, I had my neighbor screaming at me in the
Okay.
backyard because they've been feeding the pigeons. Now we've got like 50 pigeons in the backyard shitting everywhere, making a mess. It's horrible. We wrote really lovely letters. We say, I know, just doing our best to say, and she's not legally allowed to do this for that exact reason, right? Especially if there's any problem. So, and then I told her, well, listen, here's the issue now is that I've got all this damage that's occurring because of the pigeons. So I have to bring cleaners in. But now, as far as I'm concerned, like those costs will be borne by you because I don't, this is the damage you're creating, and
Wait,
and
wait,
she
wait.
says, well,
Who's feeding the pigeons?
the neighbor is feeding the pigeons.
Oh, I thought you said you were.
No, 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 the neighbor's feeding the pigeons in the
Oh,
backyard, and
okay.
it's just created a havoc in the
But why
backyard.
was she yelling at you?
She was yelling at me because I asked her to stop doing that, and then
Oh,
she
okay.
started screaming racial epithets at me. Go home, you foreigner, and blah. She was going off. I mean, she just went to town, and there's a funny loop to the story. So I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, listen. I understand that this is something that you want, but there's damage occurring, and it's not only occurring on our property. There's another neighbor, and we're having bird poop everywhere, and it's not legally allowed. And then I said to her, listen, I understand you're not going to change the behavior, but do realize now you force me to now document it, clean it, and then force you to pay for it in court. And I don't want to do that, but that's the path we're now going down. And it's such a shame because it shouldn't have to be that way. But I see that there's no other chance for this. And then she started. Then she didn't do it, but then she started screaming at me, right? Still again and again, and then a day later, I went downstairs to the neighbor below, and we were chit chatting. And I said, it's so sad because now I have to get the lawyer involved, and this is just such a not something I want to do. But I don't really have much of a choice because the damage is getting pretty significant. And then he said, you know what? Her husband died last month. And now these birds are the one thing that she has connection to.
Equanimity.
And I'm now telling her she can't do that one thing.
Okay. I mean, that is essentially a story that, contempt to curiosity. I mean, we've got to leave room for the pain that's in others.
Yeah.
That we don't know about, we may never know about. Where does that, I think that does come back to asking ourselves,
Well, slow down. We can only allow ourselves to be with the pain of others to the degree that we've allowed ourselves to be with that pain within ourselves.
Okay.
So when you said that, if we've made space for that pain in ourselves, we can be present for that pain in another. And if we can't, it'll trigger us, and then it'll come out in these contorted ways.